day 5 of ministry. All right, I just finished eating a granola bar. I'm sorry. All right, so day 5. This was an interesting kind of like limbo day, just because we were done. We were done with the church in with the Conquistador Church, and we were preparing to go into the next church, to the next community as well. But this day we actually decided to go into this jungle community. Not in the jungle, but it was made up of people that came from the jungle. And we that poverty level there was really high. It was incredible just to hear about how, just a couple years ago, they used to be basically like a garbage dump. People would be picking food out of it. People would be really just scavenging anything that they could from it to sell or to make a living off of. And to go in and see, there's this really small church there that we partner, that we at least we support, and that Cesar and his base are aware of. And we got to visit them. We got to meet some of the members there, and they were able to bring us around to into their community. Um, so so this community also speaks another dialect of Spanish, or maybe not even Spanish, just another language. And members of the church that we paired up with was able, we kind of do like a double translation. It was like, so if I was speaking, it would be like me to someone who knew Spanish, or someone who could translate from English to Spanish. So that'd be Rob, who was basically my translator the whole week, and then Felix, who knew Spanish into this next language. So it's like mind blowing to like have this process. Although we didn't really have to use that much, just because the people that we ended up meeting with, like had kind of a basic understanding of Spanish. So I basically just had to kind of translate through Rob, and Felix was really there just to lead us to people who needed the food that we were going to be handing out. So we brought along our bags of food to into this community as well. So meeting Felix was really a blessing. He is an amazing guy. He is quite new to this community actually, but he is striving to be a student. He doesn't have the money to do it yet, but he really wants to be a student. He actually brought us to his home. He actually brought us into his little rented home. I think it would be about like 6x6, 7x7, just this tiny, literally like this cube of space. It's just space. It's not even like made to be a home. That's how poor this community is. They're just barely getting by. And like in this home, there's just one bed for him, his wife, and his new child. In this little space, sort of like this tiny gas stove, a little bit of food, and it was really just amazing to meet them and see how much they wanted to be a family of Christ, and how encouraged they were by our presence and by our efforts, I guess. And I guess it was just really neat just to, excuse me, I keep burping, I don't know why. It was really encouraging just to see how he wanted to pour out into this community. He was one of a very, very involved member of the church, so it was really neat to have him lead us around. I was taking notes the whole time, so the page that I have in here is kind of a mess. There's a little bit of dirt from the community because I dropped it as I was climbing one of the ladders. They don't have stairs, they have ladders because of the lack of space. It is so packed in that community. They basically have ladders instead of staircases to get onto the second floor of a home. Not even a home, it's like the second level to get to their apartment. It's just so cramped there. It was really, really a sad sight to see. My public health self was very, very devastated. It was really difficult to see, but nonetheless, it was very encouraging to see that there is a community of Christ there. Very small one. There's about 2,000 people that live there, and there's only about 50 people in the church, so there's still a lot of people to reach. This community also has very deep roots in like witchcraft, so it's very difficult to ask these people to convert, in a sense, to this foreign religion. But nonetheless, we were able to go to different families that were actually in the church, some that were relatively newer to the church, some that just needed encouragement. I think that was the main goal of the church there, and of Felix when he brought us around, was to really encourage other members of the church, to see that there are other brothers and sisters that really do care about them, and really want to provide not only food but also prayer and encouragement. Um, so that was really neat. We got to meet people who, um, you know, had just come from the jungle. They just settled in a couple months ago. The rest of the family is still back in the jungle, and they're just really hoping that they can just get by. There was one girl who really wanted to go to school, but because I guess in this sense this community was kind of like illegal immigrants, they didn't really have she didn't have the papers to go to school, so she couldn't continue her schooling. So I really hope I can continue to pray for her and continue to pray that she will get the papers that she needs. She wasn't even there with her parents. I think it was just her and her sister, and she was hoping that when her parents came, they would bring the papers that she needed in order to continue her schooling. Um, yeah, there was also another thing that was really heartbreaking for me to see was that they really, coming from the jungle community, they use the Amazon River or whatever water source they have to wash their clothes, basically their sewage system, to wash themselves, just like basic needs, right? But all this community had was two public bathrooms. 2,000 people, two public bathrooms, and you still have to pay to get in. We actually sent Ross in to kind of take a look at it and what it was like, and he had to pay 50 soles, which is the currency there, to get in, or not 50 soles, but like 50 cents of one soles. 50 soles is a lot of money. I think it's around like a 2.7 soles to $1. Like, you need to know that, but at the time we were there, that was the exchange rate. But we had to pay basically 50 cents to get in. And then it was really interesting to see how Ross described it afterwards. He was saying how there's basically like this half pipe, this trench in there, and there's basically water running through it. People do their clothes in there. There's the bathroom that you can use, obviously, and there's also like showers like to pay a little bit extra for. Like, it's just not having basically 1,000 people use that one place as their basically source of just living was really, really hard to hear. I don't know. I mean, it seems like the community is very tight knit, so like they can work together and sort of things like that. But it was still really hard to just hear that there's just so many people crammed into this one place, and I can only pray that there will be continual development. Another thing that was really surprising about Peru is just how clean it is. People, I think the people there really value cleanliness, and they really do like pick up after themselves in the streets. They definitely do have are just really on top of making sure things are clean and as presentable as possible. And so that was really encouraging to see, because they weren't just being like, oh, let's give up, but they were continually trying to make a living for themselves. We were also able to pass by a lot of like shops, I guess, in a sense. Like, basically they would employ people from the community to like make bags or make clothing or make woodwork or whatever, and to see that they were thriving in that way as well, that they have gone so far since PR first went into that community and saw them, like scavenging in the dumps, basically. So that was really encouraging to see. And I think the last person we met is probably what touched me the most about this community. So her name was Anna. She actually asked Felix specifically. Like, I noticed that we were only going to church families, and I was like, Felix, like, can we go to a place where, can we go to a family or a home that is not part of the church? And he actually led us to his aunt-in-law. So basically his wife's aunt. I say aunt and aunt interchangeably. Please deal with me, thank you. So basically we got to talk with this woman, and I think Felix definitely had her on his mind for a very long time. So Anna actually was pretty old. She is not new to the community by any means. She's been there since the beginning, about 14 years ago, and has seen it transform from this dump into this place that is beginning to thrive into this community. And we were really able just to ask her about what she does. Like, apparently she makes a bunch of bracelets and necklaces and just jewelry and things like that. And she goes out into Lima to sell them, and that's her livelihood. She has done that for 14 years, and she learned to do this even before she came to Lima. And I think we were really able just to really ask her about herself, really share the gospel with her. And because Felix mentioned that she used to be Christian, but decided to step away from the faith because her son died. Her son died after coming back from the military, and a month after he returned, he fell ill and died the next day. Um, so I can just imagine what that does to a mother, like to lose your son after not seeing him for so long since he was away. Um, and I think it was really an opportunity for us to reach out to her, in knowing her darkest moments, and realizing just how devastated she was and how maybe possibly angry she was at God. Um, and it was a really neat opportunity. Actually, Ross was able to really reach out to her and share his story about how he lost a very close family member, and just really encourage her in how God is able to restore, and how God is able to bring healing, and how God does provide. And that was just really a really special moment for me, because Anna did decide to reaccept Christ and to. I'm not exactly sure where it's going to go forward. It seemed like as if she did definitely look like as if she lacked a lot of hope, and it was definitely really hard to see. But I'm really praying. I'll definitely be praying for her, that she will continue to seek after God, that she will understand that He is her hope, and that He can restore her, and that He can really provide for her in that way. But yeah, that was just a really amazing encounter, I think, with her. Really special experience. Um, it really showed me just how much God cared for this community, and how much God really has a special place in His heart for this jungle community that is very deeply rooted in this witchcraft kind of um, thing, and seeing that God has placed a group of people that are light there, and that I can only pray that God will continue to spread that light through the community, and that this community will be known as a place where there is hope, and a place where there is joy, because these people do come from very, very desperate situations. So later that evening, we traveled pretty far. Actually, it didn't feel very far, but to Huaycan, which is a community that our church has worked with for a very, very long time, um, and I think for some reason our pastor decided to leave, or not just like leave the church there and move on to other churches in Peru to work with and partner with. So it was really neat just to be able to visit the community that our church had worked with for such a long time. I had never been there before. I'd heard stories of it. I've heard stories of just the church there, of the kids there, of just the community there, and I really was glad that we got to visit. We were able to do some street outreach. We did our skit and our dances there, and we were able to kind of reach out to the community in that sense. We were also able to attend their evening service, which was really special, just because I could see that there was a lot of youth there, and just to be able to just show them, show the youth there how much we cared and how much we wanted them to continue to grow in God. That was really neat, and I think just be able to encourage them. We were able to meet with two girls who were friends, and really encourage them to really begin to read the Bible. We were even our group was actually able to share our favorite Bible verses, and that was really special, just because I think we were able to share not only the verses themselves, but also how the verses encouraged us, and how they reminded us of who God was, and to how they grounded us in our faith. And so I hope that was encouraging for them. I will definitely be praying for those two girls, just because they're pretty new to the church, and they're already starting to get pretty involved, that they want to go on a missions trip with the church pretty soon. So I really hope that God will be using the youth there very powerfully. Especially only got to spend a couple hours with that church. It was really neat to just be able to show them how much we still love them, and how much we still support them in what they do, despite our church no longer partnering with them, partnering as in like sending teams over there specifically, or like giving them money and things like that, but that we still, as brothers and sisters in Christ, we support them in what they do, and we are encouraged by what they do as well. So yeah, so that day was definitely a day that um, looks very different than the rest of our days. We weren't really working with a specific church in general, but we were just able to reach out to these communities and show them how much we love them. We were also able to do some more street outreach in Huaycan. We did a couple of different sections and able to just pray for people there. For some reason, our group again was stuck with a bunch of kids, and at our last street outreach in Huaycan, there's basically this group of kids and moms that were basically pushing kids towards us to pray for them, to pray for healing over their families, to pray for and even shyness. I thought that was an interesting prayer request that the moms would ask us to pray for shyness over these kids, that God would really give them boldness. And it was amazing just to see the trust that they had in us and how they trusted that we were able to, intercede for them and pray for them. So that was really, really encouraging, just to know that people really do see God in us. People really do see that we are we're pursuing God, and we want to really help them in doing so as well. So I really hope that we were an encouragement to that community. We weren't able to go back afterwards, and I hope hopefully like God will continue to transform both the jungle community and Huaycan to follow Him and to really pursue Him and pursue His love. So let's move on to the next day. This is where it gets really exciting.